welcome everybody. Hopefully the week has been survivable. Hopefully we are as excited as I always am to be here to experience the world that you all build. Because in the end, not to accidentally or incidentally swell any of your heads to give you too much of a case of vanity, this is in fact the world of your creation. These characters and how they interact with the world, changing it for whatever they choose to change it for, be it good, be it ill, is in fact your world, and I would not have the pleasure of exploring it or experiencing it without you. So, quite simply and forever, thank you. And just in case we were not aware, this is Soup City Sins Obscura. Before we dive in and embrace whatever this world has to toss at us, what are your questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners we need to round off?
Are ghost sharks real?
Yes.
And they are everywhere then?
Not quite. There are a few places where they choose not to go. There's a certain temperature when the waters rule the entirety of the planet instead of just 75-80% of it, where the temperatures suited them, and that's where they are now.
But they do exist, therefore that Kata can control them.
Yes, if not swallowed whole by them or chomped to bits. A little nibble to ensure that the soul is actually not food, though it usually ends up being just that.
My God, they could conquer the world.
Yeah, but if you conquer the world, then you gotta be responsible for it. That's a whole lot of work and a whole lot of blame you have to be prepared to take.
I mean, but are people going to really know who's controlling the ghost sharks?
Yeah, there is that. Though, the Nosferatu, the Nictacu, the Samdi, the Malkavians even, having even the merest hint or inclination would be a problem unto itself, you know? Those are the last people you want to know anything that may possibly be true. And speaking of possibly being true, this is without a shadow of a doubt the beginning of our episode. This is Soup City Sins Obscura, Book 3, Chapter 4, The Dance. When we last left our coterie, they'd managed to find themselves in the belly of the beast, the greatest landmark to hedonistic excess of nightlife as a culture, a community, a hobby, an avocation in the business. The longest reigning and undisputed champion of the nightlife as a whole, the Succubus. Its castle-like facade, its dark gray stone, a halcyon memory in nearly every service-focused, ravenous, youthful-minded individual's past. You have grandmas and grandpas and great uncles and great aunts who fondly tell the tale of walking by there one late Friday night and the line stretching down around the block. That's where they first saw a Lamborghini in person, or that's the first place where they saw a Phantom in the actual metallic flesh. It's the first place where they got so tired that they don't remember what happened. They know they had a great time, but it was the place where they partied until they couldn't remember. It's the place where even being put on a wait list to get inside is a feather in your cap. It is the brass ring that every hedonistic individual stretches towards. It sets the tone, it sets the pace, and it sets many lives adrift. Because just for all of the great nostalgic memories of the place being created on the nightly basis, so too are those darker memories of the place. There were 6 of us. No, there were 5. I thought I used to have a friend. At least I remember. But I can't think of their name. We all went down, and they disappeared. What was their name? I can't remember their name. I miss them. Or the nights where I don't know what happened. I went in for a beer and I woke up here in jail. Like the last 3 weeks of my life, I don't know what happened. It's the place where would-be music legends have disappeared. Geniuses of all stripes, of all varieties, have entered and never exited. And 15, 20 years later, their friends and their associates might spy them out. They could swear that that was them crossing the street, getting into that all black on black SUV, but they look exactly as they did 15, 20 years ago. It's the place that has as many hushed whispers about don't get too wild when going by there. You could find yourself missing. It's the place where everyone knows the criminal elite frequent. I could swear, I know it's a little bit before your time, but I know for a fact that John Gotti, when he visited here, when he was on the lam, he went in there. I know for a fact. Or, yeah, the guy who killed those 3 rappers out there in Inglewood. Yeah, I saw them bright and big as life going into the succubus. Or my girlfriends were dancers there. They got paid really, really well. But she, I'm not exactly sure what they were taking. But one morning she just woke up. She said that the world hurt. She was looking run down. She'd lost weight in the course of a night. And she went up to all of those stories swirling with the magic of the place going back several generations. All of those tales of excess and the best nights that you will never remember is what the succubus is. Is what the succubus has been. There are hundreds of thousands of competitors and would-be adherents to that throne, but none have maintained the title and the esteem combined with the fear that is the succubus. The coterie finds themselves inside the dark, glittering, shimmering neon spaces of the maze. It's a veritable club within the club. It is the best, worst kept secret, because yes, the succubus itself is the penultimate nightclub, but the maze is the penultimate dive bar inside the most elite nightclub in all of Chicago. The maze is where crud punk, death metal, and screamo mix. It's where the counter culture combines with the volatility of raging youth, while upstairs are the moneyed, the beautiful, the sensationally ostentatious. Upstairs holds all of the glamour and what that means, and it's opposite of what the nightlife is. The maze. The maze is where the danger lies, the visible danger lies. All of the fear that comes with walking into a metal bar and you happen to be a little more R&B top 100s. All of the danger of walking into a leather-clad space and you're dressed in your best, brightest, most pastel polka-dotted sundress. The maze is what the unbridled passion of nightlife aspires to be. Dark corners, small tables, volume for volume's sake. And that's where the motley finds themselves. The small stage on the eastern portion of the maze, in the actual club space of the maze, filled with the band playing their hearts out. And there at stage left, a face they've seen most recently in the most unexpected of places. There at stage left as the band just wails and their lead singer prances and preens like a barely contained tiger. Their clearly lead guitarist, her wide-brimmed hat reminding you of softer, older things, yet managing to keep the pace. And their violinist, somehow coaxing a wild madness from the instrument, adding a discordant harmony to it all. And the crowd swooning. Oh my God, baby chorus! Is where the motley finds themselves. So what is it that we might be up to?
Aurora is going to see if she can find the guy's boyfriend and send him outside, because that was part of them getting into the club in the first place. And it's going to make her happy to think that they might work things out.
Out of character, someone refresh me why we came here in the first place.
Doppelgangers.
Our doubles are here.
Gotcha. And I will look kind of, without going too far out of my way, for my double. I will look where I might be.
Actually, storyteller, since I saw the vision of myself entering the club, would I know about what location they would be?
Yes, but we're getting decisions together as to where you all, what's preeminent, what's first, what are you doing, moving from the dream of fantasy, which is where you've all relatively been abiding this whole time. You, as a group, even with those hills and mountains that you've all managed to climb, even with the impossibility of everything that the motley has been through, it has been relatively idyllic. There's a creeping sense of you being well beyond the bounds of the storied book in which you all belong. Well beyond the easily understandable reach of the big bad wolf. With the wolf, you may be swallowed whole. With the doubts crawling over your skin, they may make a spider's web of silk of all of those misjudged moments of your past. In the moments you've inhabited leading to here, leading to now, it has been the turning of a page and remembering of a tale. Somehow you've managed to escape that anthology of stories that has been your existence, and you are now here in what amounts to this version of the real world. Your promise to the doorman, you're seeking yourself. What in regards to Kira and Hazel does this opportunity present itself? Aurora seeking to keep a promise. Harmony seeking to find themselves. What of our other two members?
So Kira is gonna say to Hazel, this isn't really my scene, so I'm gonna follow your lead on this. Do you think your double is here too?
That was the impression that I got from Aurora, but we're basically like the blind leading the blind here. I don't know of any situations that have like this that have actually happened.
Yeah, I don't think I can really say I have any experience with this apart from the fact that my double is buried under some concrete right now. Unrelated, I'm feeling a bit stretched thin. Do you think it would be appropriate for me to get some glamour back here?
It could be a place.
And let me take care of that, and then I'll meet back up with you, alright?
Sounds like a plan. I will be at the bar.
Okay. So, that we might paint this darkling mirror image as to where the motley is. Aurora heads to find a promise. Harmony to find themselves. Kira to find magic. And Hazel to find a drink.
That about sums it up, yes.
Excellent. So with decisions doing what decisions do, which decides what most likely is the preeminent and primary concern of our heroes, because that's what each of these changeling are. They are heroes to someone, even if they are not heroes to themselves. They are the living embodiment of the impossible power of dreams. And our heroes, having made it past the Sphinx, the gatekeeper, the doorman, finding themselves in the dungeon of the beast, as it were, finding themselves here, head off to accomplish their goals. keeping a promise is far more difficult than making one, especially in our banal modernity that we call life. Making a promise is an easy thing, and we've gotten very good as a people, we humans, at engaging in the litigiousness of the promises given, in the letter of the promises given. Oh no, I didn't give my word, but you did. You spoke it into existence, and you couched even in that initial utterance of those promises, maybe, if, possibly. It depends on what I get back from them, and then I can. And we construct these contracts, these promises, without true consideration as to what they mean to those who receive them. The changelings, however, don't have such a loose association with their words. The changeling don't have a loose association with their dreams and fantasies. They have no difference between them. Their instincts and what they decide and the words that they give bind them into 100 different situations based on the permutations and intentions of the words spoken. Usually. So moving through the crowd, looking for the face. Aurora, would you be so kind, when you have the opportunity, let's have you give a quick tracking and moving through the crowd. While this is not Aurora's honest, usual environment, there is a truth to things that water signifies. Water will always move to its level, will always find its way. Water will be, under most circumstances, whatever it needs to be to remain water. Put it into a cup, becomes the cup, but it doesn't stop being water. Pour it into a body and it fills the stomach, becoming the stomach, without ever stop being water. It sustains life and yet never stops being water. Its state changes, hot, cold, steam, liquid, frozen, solid. It still remains water, even as we humans give it several different other names to describe its state. It is still always water. It will still always find a way. And as gentle as it can be when poured and controlled and held in place by various pipes or just gravity itself, it will wear away the mightiest stone. It will swallow the entirety of the world if given an opportunity. And so she moves through the crowd, seeking out her promise. Would you be so kind as to roll your wits and either socialize or streetwise?
And I'm still at 2 dots and hunger / glamour, right?
Yes. Yes.
I'll keep it.
There's an ebb and flow to everything. Everything moves at its own pace. Finding that tempo and that timing to slip between the dancing and frolicking, and are they serious? You pause for just a hair's breadth as a flash of the lights from the stage reaches into the darkness as you're making your way further into the maze, and you catch the upturned, ecstatic face of some wild youth giving themselves over to a public display of affection, yet something about looking into their face fully washed with all the pleasures of risque behavior, their hand wrapped around the back of whoever it is that has them bent and pinned into the corner, the sheer look of pleasure on their face so palpable as to feel as if you've been slapped, as if you've peeked through the wrong keyhole, as if you've turned the wrong corner and caught the most intimate of moments carried out as wild and violent as possible. The escaping sigh and moan, the way that their fingers form claw-like structures as they hold hard and fast to their partner, who all you can tell from them in this moment is the thick leather jacket that looks very vintage, the jeans worn at the waist, and the boots looking as if they've seen 100,000 different highways. And their pleasure laid so bare, it is in fact a shocking thing, even for you, even for your adherence and need for joy and pleasure, your adherence to finding the best possible moments and subsisting on just the bare necessities, floating along. It is intense, to say the least.
Kind of stands there transfixed for a minute, like, what was I doing again? Eyes wide and whew, it's hot in here. I didn't know that in public anymore.
It's hard. It is so very hard. There's a small bit of perspiration gathering at your lip. There is there is an honest moment where the wafting pleasure all but lifts you off the ground, causes you to float there for a moment, to resist the natural for you and for all changeling, to resist not harvesting in this moment, to not go on the ride that is there for you, beckoning and whispering. What is Aurora's court?
She is spring.
And what emotion is she bent towards?
It's your joy. This is the almost perfect trap.
Would you be so kind? Does she keep her promise, or does she continue hunting for her promise, or does she give herself over to partaking of this moment? To resist, she would need to roll her resolve plus clarity. She needs a DC 4 to continue on with her mission and not allow herself to be swept up in this moment.
Yeah, fully distracted is kind of drifts that way, almost forgetting about what she promised for a good minute, getting almost probably too close to what's going on before catching yourself.
Where'd you roll?
I didn't.
Oh. So you're willingly embracing this moment. Excellent. There's an ideology that we commonly toss off. The more you fight, the stronger it gets. And instead of fighting, Aurora chooses to invest in the moment, chooses to go along with what lay there before her. And what lays there before her is a banquet of excessive passion and the unleashing. With that sitting before her and giving wholeheartedly over to partaking of this moment and harvesting a portion of the glamour. How is she interacting with the couple as they satiate themselves, as they feed on the emotions there?
I could definitely see her kind of sliding alongside them. Not touching, because consent is key. But, sliding alongside them and trying to catch one of the two's attention and giving them both her prettiest smile.
So she attempts to seduce them with being available, putting up all the signs that she is in fact willing. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your presence and either empathy or expression as high as you can get? And while that roll is in the offing, there are just as many stories and half tossed off phrases about going home again, about finding yourselves, about seeking and discovering one's own agency. It's a multi-million-dollar a year industry, self-help books written to help you from someone else. There are hundreds of psychologists, psychotherapists, counselors, celebrity personalities, and people who failed at several thousand opportunities to find themselves, who think that their experiences will help the next person enrich their own lives. And while Harmony has fought battles that most could only dream of, she's had to be the inspiration for armies literally fighting the forces of the essence of evil. She's had to embody the cold perfection and demands of responsibility and authority. She's had to be like unto an actual Valkyrie, rescuing the souls of the departed, taking them to their just rewards for lives tossed away in the spirit of combat. So finding herself in this temple to expression, finding herself or a version of herself in a place that is dedicated to the essence of hedonism. How would she go about that?
She would kind of mill about. She knows herself, so she knows what sort of things she would do, which would probably also be milling about. This isn't really her scene so much.
It is not. It's not really anyone's scene. It's the idea, it's the fantasy. And therein lies the basic philosophy of the place. It's the illusion that this place offers those who come here, those who spend far above their means to get through the door, to make it to the bar, to visit the bathroom, to pogo in place on one of the many dance floors spread throughout the building. It's even more so here in the dark of the maze. Here on this level, the wild, reckless abandon of youth is the illusion. It's the illusion made real and still just beyond the grasp or reach of most who decide to spend space and time here. The smell of the throng of humanity is a hard one to ever really escape in places such as this. The overactive imaginations and matching hormones is a heady thing, and it's a thing that as you move and mill and stop and watch and decide to move on, it is the thing that dances there on the tip of Harmony's mind. Would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus investigation? There are lots of times when people toss out the idea of losing something, losing the thought. It's there on the tip of your tongue, but it just won't break through the boundary of your teeth. You know it. You know the feeling of it and the space that it occupies in your thoughts, but you can't get the words to tumble free. It is as if they get there on the tongue, have a duel, and they both lie dying there. It's knowing something that is so obvious that it plagues you, but it refuses to make itself visible. And as she watches these young, barely post-teenage individuals party, as she watches the press and throng looking for herself, there is something so obvious and yet just beyond her reach. It is right there. She's looking dead at it, and she can't tell the boundaries of it. She can't see the edge of it, the outline of it. She knows what she's seeing, and it's something pertinent, but it is not allowing itself to be completely visible. She feels it in her cold, dead bones. She feels it there like the kiss of winter, the blush of the cheeks, the rosy nose, the fingers and toes needing an extra bit of activity to remain warm. It is something so pressing, something so obvious that it escapes her. And then there's the tap along her shoulder. The two-finger polite excuse me that she feels.
She will turn and look.
Just under, right at 6 feet tall. It's a pale model. There's no other way to describe the man standing there, his curly hair pulled back into a nice, neat, and severe ponytail resting against the nape of his neck. His shoulders a little too wide to be the androgynous aesthetic of most models. You can tell that he works out, or at least cares about his body, or has done the hard labor to get those shoulders so wide. And while nearly everyone else that you've witnessed thus far has some portion of their body clad in leather, he is not. He's wearing a waist defining slim pair of slacks. His shirt open, perhaps a button and a half too far, showing off his cleanly waxed chest or hairless chest. You're not sure which of the two it is. And there's the smell of money all over him, as if he's recently come into it, which further has the idea of him being someone who's worked his way into where he is now. And that's simply being pretty for pretty's sake. I couldn't help but notice you. Your name wouldn't be Celine, would it?
No.
You look like Celine. You look like, well, you look like a full moon on a starless night. You look like you're gonna break my heart. You look like you're gonna be my favorite ex. My favorite heartbreak that I just can't forget. I'm Brett, by the way. And he offers his hand.
Harmony.
I think that's fitting. Is the music that we could make, and this is no line but the truth. I can't play music to save my life, but I'm sure that you can. I'm sure you can dance too, can't you?
Depends on how broadly you define that.
Pretty broadly. Unlike most of these, I have an idea what dance actually is. And it's movement. It's allowing whatever you feel to come pouring out of you. And I think I'm not going to beat around the bush. I find you interesting. I find you to be someone worth me pouring myself out to. I find you interesting, and I would like to get to know you. You look like you're busy. I've noticed you circling, moving through the crowd like a shark. Maybe I can help.
Perhaps not.
Well, it's not much of an answer. Everything is either yes or no. Everything is a maybe until we make it a reality. Why not give me the chance to make everything that I'm dreaming of come true?
What is it you're dreaming of?
Getting to know every aspect of you. Giving you as much of me as you can handle. Creating a moment so perfect that it breaks our heart to think back to it. I dream of an intimacy so painfully brilliant that 100 years from now, someone will still be talking about it.
It's pretty thick, don't you think?
Oh, you have no idea how girthy it is.
She smirk and roll her eyes a bit.
I know it seems a little cheesy, but we're Americans. We love cheese. And even this little bit of time that we've shared is special to me. Let me actually help you. You clearly are looking for something. Let me help you find what you're looking for. In exchange, because we know that it's not me, you give me the opportunity to get close enough that you can see who I really am. I swear I will knock your socks off. I promise you that it won't let you down. And I guarantee that if you give me the chance, you'll never have a moment that will ever compare. And if I fail, at least you can tell your friends, your girlfriends, your sister, or your brother how hilariously and spectacularly I missed the mark. We all love a good story, don't we?
You're definitely building castles that will be hard to fill.
I build the castles in the air. I don't have to live in them. Not for long. I think I'm well past that point. He offers his elbow and takes a step closer. Shall I escort you, my lady?
She will take his elbow but give him a side eye and say, "My lady."
Well, it was either that or my aching heart. It's funny. No one thinks that I, on a night-to-night basis, no one in my line of work, none of my extended family would ever expect me to understand what that means. There were, back in the olden days, there were my lords and my ladies. And even though at the time, women such as yourselves ruled through their men, by controlling the lord, the lady had the most power of any woman. But it was an act of espionage carried out on a daily basis because women didn't have any power. No one expected them to. Yet with their wilds, they had just as much say, more than any other male, than the average male, short of the Lord. With the right word whispered in their husband or father's ear, they could change the lives of entire families. Because during those days, the Lord really did have the right of life and death over all of their vassals, over all of their servants. So, the lady, my lady, had the right of life and death over every other woman and male short of the Lord. And if they were wily, they even had right of life or death over the Lord. Little small espionage is carried out on a daily basis. Constantly at war, sleeping with the enemy, controlling the ebb and flow of families that we are still feeling today. Think about if Shakespeare had been born 3 generations later, 2 generations earlier, or if the servants that begat him at that time offended the lady, their duchess, their baron, their princess. You know how many families disappeared in the blink of an eye for the wrong word said? So yeah, it's a little corny, it's a little cheesy, but I'm giving you full control over my life. If you would ask me right now to stop breathing, I would. If you were asking me right now to whisper the word of forever, I could. And all of that power in your hands. So what are we looking for, by the way?
A person.
Well, clearly that means we have to keep looking, because I am not a person. I am the greatest love that you will probably forget about after tonight. You'll remember the moments, the idea of it, the emotion of it, the joy that I could potentially bring you or brought you, as the case may be. We're talking about what you'll feel tomorrow or the week after. But you'll forget me. You'll say it was just too much to drink, too dark, too hot. You took a chance, it didn't work out. Whatever story you tell yourself, whatever reality you make it to be. But you'll still always remember me. You'll know that I was the absolute best. Or like they said in the movie, I'll stay golden in your memory. Like a final sunset, like the last sunrise. It'll be great. It'll be perfect. And you know why it'll be perfect? Because you'll forget me. So this person, are they someone that we love, someone that we loathe? Is this a former lover, a new lover, a sister, a brother, a father, a mother? Or just a figment of the imagination?
Probably a few of those.
Are they tall? Like you?
They're a lot like me.
I find that impossible. I'm sure there are no other beings in the entirety of the world like you. And he pauses and stops and looks at you, taking in the fullness of what you are, looking from your head to your toes and back and settling on the space between your heart and your mind. There in your eyes, the windows to all things that you might be. And a playful smile dancing on his lips. I know you hear this all the time, but you've got stars in your eyes. Your eyes twinkle in the dark.
Normally I just hear how cold I am.
I've never been afraid of the cold. And and speaking of cold, in places like this, the beer is typically out of date. In places like this, most of the bottles never contain what they say they do. Well, not the specific poison they say they do. There's a difference between Uncle Nearest and Jack Daniels. There's a difference between Jack Daniels and Old Fitzgerald. There's a difference, and yet in places like this, what often happens, even as illegal as it is, if they are caught, the bottles are refilled. They buy in bulk and just pour the same type, not the exact same, into those bottles. They're smart enough to never really water things down, but they will buy a cheaper variety. At least that's from everything Hazel can remember about their existence before disappearing across the hedge. Everything about this space, save the stage and the huge maze at the western 3/4 of this space, screams dive bar, screams punk back alley bootleg bar. The bottles carry a little dust on them. The beer in the coolers are kept so many degrees below zero so that they might collect ice chips in the bottles, ice chips in the cans, because if it's cold enough you don't taste how old the beer might actually be. At least that's what Hazel remembers of these spaces. She can't remember if she's ever been in the succubus. But she knows a dive bar when she sees it. She knows a punk club when she sees it. And from everything she can gauge of her memories, this is exactly what the maze is. So she bellies up to the bar. The bartender is all of 5'4". She has biceps as wide around as some people's thighs. Her shoulders festooned with artwork. In fact, the entirety of her right arm, there is barely a square quarter of an inch that does not have some artwork on it. Her left, it's literally from her elbow to her fingertips, but then nothing from her elbow up to her shoulder. You can tell that beneath her muscle tee, her chest and neck, and the very dangerously painful area where her clavicle is filled with artwork. And then there's her hair. Most of the youth that Hazel is bothered to witness, they have some form of shorn, cut, styled hair. Not her. Her entire head is filled with this thick, woolly blonde that's been dyed so many times that there's a faint hint of green to it. You're sure that it's almost her natural color, a brown that varies and waves between deep, dark chestnut all the way to heather blonde. And then there's the metal spaced across her face. 2 barbells in the left brow, 1 ring in both ends of her right. She has 2 nostril piercings on the same side, and one is a large enough gauge where you can almost see through the skin of her nose, through her nostril, to what lay beneath. She has 2 rings in her bottom lip on the left side and 1 in her upper lip on the right side. And then there are her eyes, dark enough that you'd be easily mistaken for seeing them as black, but they are brown so deep and dark as to seem as such. Finding the difference between her iris and her pupil is almost impossible, even with your attention to detail. And the clump of her feet on the floor beneath, the stone floor of the maze beneath, is met with this almost hollow rubber sound as you realize that she's probably shorter than you expect, because there's no way that there's that much heel in for her to be still noticeably short of the average. What you need? She screams over the music so that you can hear her.
Hazel will glance back behind the bar real quick, looking at the liquors. Can you make a Snow White?
A what? What kind of shot is that?
It's an old cocktail.
We don't do old. How about, here. And she literally just grabs the bottle, holding your eye contact as if she's daring you to say something, anything that's even remotely rude, because you know she's the sort of person and sort of bartender that has like cue cards in her head as to where to place you. She grabs the bottle without looking, and honest to goodness, she doesn't bother grabbing a mixing glass or shaker. She just grabs a rocks glass. She pours while still holding your eye contact, put the bottle down, moves a half a hair to the right of that bottle, grabs the next one, and does another very long pour from the rocks glass all the way up the stretch of her arm, placing that back. That she grabs the soda gun, still holding contact, and you can hear her hitting one button after the next. She holds the rocks glass in her right hand after she sets the soda gun down, and she slams it on the bar, and then she grabs a strainer and strains it into a shot glass, setting it before you. $6.
Hold it. Cash out of my wallet. 10. Just leave it there. Keep the change. That's perfect form, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you ain't gonna get any change anyway. You don't look like the normal. What are you doing down here?
Just waiting on some friends.
You got friends here? Alright, lady, come
That's what
on.
I'm
Are you a
told.
cop or a fed?
Do I look like either?
Yeah. Try not to look like either.
I'm not.
Uh-huh. Who you know? And she points towards the band. Still playing, still wailing, still having the crowd swaying, pogoing, and dancing.
A young woman by the name of Aurora. She's here frequently, I believe.
Really?
She said she's been here before, at least.
Aurora, Sleeping Beauty. And you ordered Snow White. You think you funny, don't you?
Only on some days.
Yeah, cop would have a whole story as to why that was the case. Maybe you're not a cop, but you're clearly on the job. Look at you, watching the crowd, reading the labels on the bottles. Nobody does that. Really, who are you here for? What are you trying to do? And even though there's two people that made their way to the bar and leaning and trying to get her attention, she leans on her elbows and juts her chin towards you as she holds eye contact.
Lean forward and down the shot. Smile. Maybe an unusual name, but her name really is Aurora.
Huh. What's yours?
Hazel. Kind of like your eyes.
That ever work for you?
Never.
I didn't think so. Hey, look.
Can't blame a girl for trying, though.
No, not at all. I'm about to go have a smoke. You want to smoke?
That sounds delightful.
Come on, we'll use the back door. In the few seconds that you and her have been talking, 3 other people have lined up at the bar to try to get her attention. She takes a rag from behind the bar, slams it on the bar. I guess to let everybody know, the regulars know that she's on break, and reaches into her back pocket, pulls out a pack of P-Funks, resells filter and all, and gives a head nod and moves towards the darkest portion next to the bar, and you realize that there's a door there. There's no exit sign above it or anything like that, but there's a door, and based on her saying smoke, it clearly leads outside. Or so you think. When she pushes open the door, you realize that it's just a storeroom with a small bit of ventilation because there's a difference in the air quality. It's got to be a cracked window or a circulation system active, because unlike the bar, unlike the space in the maze itself, once you cross that threshold, the air feels fresher. It doesn't feel as if there's so many bodies pressed so firmly together. In fact, the scents that have been bombarding you in the maze stop almost immediately. She pops a top on her box, shakes one up, and offers it to you.
Hazel will take it.
She takes one out, and instead of lighting hers first, even though she blows on the filter, make sure there's not any excess tobacco back there, she raises her lighter towards you, giving it a quick flick to get your attention, let you know that she intends on lighting yours first.
Put it up to her lips and lean forward towards the flame.
When you inhale, she removes the lighter and begins lighting hers. Closing one eye, she lights so the smoke doesn't actually get in her eyes, and she inhales deeply enough that you kind of fear for her lungs in that moment. The cherry on her cigarette sprouting to life and causing the shadows to move and evade her face for a hot second. You're not gonna believe this, she begins as she balances the cigarettes in her lips, slipping her lighter and box of cigarettes out of the way. I like your name. I was teased about mine for a very long time. Is that your real name?
As far as I know, yes. What I've been called for a very long time.
Yeah, I've never told anybody my birth name. Everybody else just calls me M. I guess I got a little trauma about it.
I'm sure you're not the only one.
Yeah, I may be. My old man, I think he's the only hetero guy that fell in love with B. Arthur.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. You look lost. Like, seriously lost. Like, you could easily blend in, but you don't. It's what caught my eye. I watched you and your girlfriends look like deer in headlights when you first came in.
This would not be my first pick. I'm more of a down-home pub sort of gal.
Where's down home?
Actually here in Chicago, but there's this little pub, and she'll give the street that it's on. It's where I usually hang out at. They're trying to get me to be more adventurous.
Was that on the south side? Is it on the west side?
What would it be?
South. High Park South. It's
Down towards High Park.
oh, High Park. That ain't really the south side, is it? Like it's like its own thing, ain't it?
More or less.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yes, this is very much outside of my comfort zone, which I think was their plan. Notice that when we got in here, they all just left.
Sounds like great friends. Who's hooking up with who?
I don't know. The one that left last, she's sort of like my little sister. I've watched out for her since she came back to Chicago.
Oh, the cute little redhead.
Yeah.
She's in here all the time. Her and her girlfriends actually usually keep a little spot at the back of the maze.
Does she now? She never told me.
Really? She's in here like 3-4 times a month every time Baby Chorus plays. She'll come early, set up a table for her and her girlfriends, and then she'll be... I'm surprised she wasn't already on the floor dancing. And she's usually here their whole set. She's chasing behind the lead singer. I think she's got a thing for him.
From what I've heard, a lot of people do.
Yeah, he's a nice enough guy. I never see him start any trouble, but you know, don't take this the wrong way, but he kind of has a temper on him. I seen him. Well, I'm not gonna gossip. That'd be too bad. And then she takes another huge drag, and you can tell there's maybe one more drag she can pull from it as she exhales, and the cloud of smoke fills up the space.
Hazel will take a puff of her cigarette as well. Sigh deeply. It feels like years since I've had one of these.
Yeah, nobody likes P-Funks. Everybody wants menthol or vapes now. These kids, man, I tell you, make me feel so old.
You're hardly, what, 25?
You're cute. I'm ancient. I make 27 next week. I'm thinking about doing a little birthday thing. How old are you?
About the same.
It's okay. I like my friends a little older, more experienced. We can learn from each other.
Some days I feel like I'm stuck in childhood.
Well, you should probably listen to your inner child more. Take a chance. You never know what you might find. And as she tosses off that bon mot, and the night does what the night does, moments spinning out with a mind of their own. It is 45 after the hour. Let's take a quick 10 here. Be back at 55 after. Alright, folks, who's back?
Yep.
Here.
Yep.
Excellent. So when we last left, Hazelette found the bartender, who as of yet not given her name, but had provided several small tidbits as to the ebb and flow of nights like tonight. Excuse me. And as they reach the 2/3 point of our cigarette, and the teasing of the idea of inhaling the last bit of nicotine settles across her, the bartender pauses, looking at Hazel, and she inhales the last third of her cigarette, dropping the still smoking butt onto the concrete floor beneath their feet, stamping it out. I'm supposed to close tonight, but I can get somebody to cover my shift. If your friends keep ditching you, come back. I'll fix you up another drink and we can decide on how much fun you really want tonight. Okay?
Thank you so much, Em. She'll inhale the last of her cigarette and lift her shoe up and snuff it out on her heel.
Ain't you dainty, she says, moving back to the door. And as only as you get back to the door, you realize that she didn't close it all the way. She literally just propped it. And looking at the door, you realize that if it had closed all of the way, you and she would be stuck in this storeroom for God knows how long. Because while no lock will hold you for long, doing such things in front of sleepers, in front of humans, which you masquerade as on a nightly, daily basis, comes with its own sorts of issues. Having the world bend to your dreams and promises made millennia before you came into existence has its consequences. And speaking of consequences, moving into the swirling, too hot and heavy, too close, too personal crowd, there is a ebb and flow to all things. When seeking to harvest glamour, is there a particular flavor that Kira was attempting to hunt out? Was there an attempt to find a particular wellspring?
I think the kind of emotion she would be drawn towards most is a sense of discovery or a sense of basically like a sense of mystery and discovery. Those are the kinds of things that she's mainly looking for. That is probably not easy to find in a party like at the Succubus. So if she can't find that, then she will just try and latch on to some emotion.
Would you be so kind to go ahead and roll your wits plus empathy first and foremost?
I don't know why, but for a moment there I was trying to find my dice, and then I remembered. No, we use 4. You said wits and empathy?
Yes. Wow. Okay. There are a million stories to be told in any particular venue with this many people giving themselves over to whatever superficial emotions echo what they actually are feeling. It's one of those where the reality is different than what everyone hopes it to be and what everyone sees it as. There's a world of illusion being spun out around you. People are posing the versions of themselves that they find most attractive to catch those matching emotions in the world. If they are at their best, at their wildest, at their most cool, extra O's, extra W's, stretching out at infinitum, then they will attract those cool, wild, crazy individuals to them. While the music blaring and bouncing off and being absorbed by the walls has its own effect, has its own emotions. Every glance that Kira makes towards the stage and the lead singer, it is almost impossible to keep her gaze from going back to the stage. The lead singer is tall and smooth skinned, the guitar slung from his shoulder, barely being plucked, but yet there's some level of unimaginable brilliance in him, in those lyrics. And then the lead guitarist, oh my God, it's almost as if she's glowing with a light of her own. And the blonde violinist, who is wailing as if he is on some Apple Crypho Stratocaster, sweat glistening and flinging into the crowd as if he's pouring the wealth of his talent out for everyone to pick up baubles, as if it's Mardi Gras float and beads are just being thrown into the crowd. And Kira finds it harder and harder to keep from watching the band on stage. It's as if they are playing for her. It's as if someone found the idea of her so engaging, so inspiring, that it magnifies their talent as they supplicate to her. She feels as if those many volumes of letters and journal entries and detailed information that she jotted down in Apocrypha across the hedge are being read, and not what she wrote about, not what she was forced to jot down to make a note of, but the feeling of her loss, of her life, of everything that she left behind. They're reading between the lines and singing them into existence, as if they somehow found all of the many entries she's made and read them in such depth and detail that they understood her. And the essence of harvesting glamour, the essence of taking a sip of the everyday magic that humans leave, drip, and soak the environment in, is there on stage. There is a magic to them, a startling brilliance that she didn't think was possible in the living.
I guess she's going to single out that emotion then and try and focus on that, since that's what seems to be drawing her attention.
There's an old chestnut. Music soothes the heart of the savage beast, or some such. Something about the power of music. Something about the magic inherent. How it can change a life, alter a tale, and spring forth into the imagination boundless vistas. As music can capture a moment in time, and every time you hear that tune, you are taken back to that specific moment. And without realizing it, Kiara is no longer heading into the maze. Without realizing it, her gaze constantly pulled to the stage, her wonder and her attempting to attune to the feelings that the music is stirring up leads her closer to the dance floor, right at the edge of the dance floor, not quite braving to step onto it, because she catches herself as she's standing there scanning the crowd and her head being pulled back to the stage, and then looking to her left and her gaze being pulled once more front and center towards the stage. She recognizes a laugh, a tinkling sort of thing. Sounds like crystal wind chimes. Sounds like Christmas morning. The air outside cold enough to have roses appear in her cheeks. She hears a laugh that takes her back to her childhood, looking up at the tree, smelling of all sorts of pine and warm wishes. The breeze wafting from somewhere in the house of Coco. And something sweet, something sweeter still, mingling with that scent of pine. The brightly wrapped gifts, teasingly there, just beyond reach. The mystery of them, having her imagination spring forth and fill her with an excitement that she has not felt since. It's the essence of all of the Christmases that she enjoyed before disappearing, before losing herself, before swimming in magic so heady and deep that the everyday magic she experienced before then simply faded. And she hears that laugh. She knows that laugh. She knows that emotion. She knows that's what she sounded like all those many years ago. That's what she sounds like in her head when she hears her own laugh presently, which she has not laughed in weeks, months. When was the last time she laughed? When's the last time she had anything to be the remotest bit happy about? It's a sobering thought. And again, her gaze is pulled toward the stage. Somewhere along the way, they've switched songs. And this one that has the lead singer, both hands on the mic, seemingly held aloft by the energy of the gathered listeners, leaning forward as if it's a benediction to stir the memory. Part of her knows that it's one of their penultimate songs. It's one of the songs that winds up and closes off the night. It's going to move into more of a folksy power ballad to close out the show. She's not sure how she knows that, but she does. And watching the lead singer, as the rest of the band settles into a shadowed version of themselves. The violin moving and weaving through, keeping time. You've never heard a violin and a drum and a guitar, yet somehow it feels like home. The only thing missing, and the moment that she thinks it, the lead singer holds onto the mic with his left, adjusting things, and steps in with the first chord played by him, melding with the others.
Trying to think what exactly Kira's next move would be here. Has Kira successfully recovered any glamour? Does she feel any more magical now? Or
not just yet. She's in the process of absorbing what's around it, but it's such a mixed bag, purifying it or condensing it to its essence, locking onto a particular strand is proving difficult because the band seems to be plucking and strumming not just their instruments, but the crowd itself, weaving their emotions and getting them to believe that magic is possible, getting them to give themselves over.
so then, rather than try and fight against that, she's probably gonna try and work with that if she can. Try and like focus on the emotions that they're eliciting and focus on someone who's like just really into the moment with that music. It seems like
She's not sure what she feels in that moment, but she latches onto it and moves forward onto the dance floor, which is partnered off into couples and thruples who are holding each other, propping each other up against the weight of the music, the weight of the magic of the song that is being played for them. They are giving themselves over. They're giving their energy up to the stage as if they are worshiping, and this is a tithe of sorts. She finds herself swept into a group of like-minded, on the surface, girls roughly her own age, early 20s. They're all a little bleary-eyed, the tears dancing at the corners as the weight of the emotion of the song is almost too overwhelming. She's not sure when she rested her hands against the person to her right, but she did, and their warmth and the outpouring of all of their emotion makes this not a weird thing. This is a crowd, this is a group, this is a church bound together in fellowship. And would you be so kind as to roll your presence and either occult or expression. Well, no, sorry. Either occult or empathy in this particular case. Because you're attempting to work with the magic that you deducted and deduced from the band, because there's power in music, there is magic in music, and you want that. And the girl that you're holding, her raven-haired, her back to you, she giving herself over to the fellowship of touch, is palpably intense. The crowd nearest you, one hand on your shoulder, the next on your forearm, rocking and swaying along to the music. And you don't take glamour from just her, but those touching you and connecting you to the circuit of the magic at play. Remove 2 banality. Your glamour is back to 1. You can keep going, but plugging directly into more into this circuit may cause unforeseen connections, unforeseen transference. Do you take it all the way?
Kira is definitely gonna cut it off here. This is a good enough harvest that she feels a lot better now.
Not only does she feel a lot better, in connecting with the circuit as superficially as she did, trying to maintain her sense of self, and the swaying girl in front of her who managed to luck out and not be drained of her emotion, the weight of it. Her friends, already a little bit maudlin with the song, having danced and sweated themselves out, you hear the first sob or sniffle of a cry, the water in their eyes breaking free, and the redhead in front of you turns around, not completely towards you. She doesn't mind the hand on her shoulder. She doesn't mind being plugged into the circuit. It's hard for her to tear her eyes away from the band. She looks towards her friends and she says, "Ro, you okay?" And she reaches past you and throws her arm around her friend that looks suspiciously like Aurora. Her friend that is voluptuously attractive. The hair not as blue as Aurora's. The skin not as smooth. But there's a dewiness to her skin that makes you think of the ocean at low tide. Calm and gently lapping the shore. And the arm that reaches past you doesn't quite even realize that you're there. The motion, the outpouring between them, so strong and so connected, takes you a second to realize that that red hair, the same shade as yours, at least what the mask presents it as, the same hue, and that pale skin looks so very much like yours, and those crystal clear eyes, a little moist around the edges from the outpouring of the emotion, being caught up in the magic of the band. You realize that those full lips pulling her friend into an embrace and whispering something as the voice drops off are almost a perfect mirror to yours, though you probably wouldn't use that shade of pink. You realize that you're staring at what others see when they look at you. What you see when you look at you with the mask in place. You realize that come on, bro. We can do an encore. Come on, I know. I love this song too, especially it's off of their new album. I told you, these guys are absolutely
Is it right to assume that this is my fetch?
It is, and they haven't quite recognized you. They haven't quite looked at you. Their outpouring of emotion is for their friend. They don't mind being in the fellowship of the moment, but their friend needs them, and that's what takes their focus. Your hand is still on her shoulder. If you pushed, she'd go sprawling. If you channeled the essence of Arcadia, you're sure that she would, because there's no way that she's real, right? There's no way that she is what she presents herself as. There's no way, right? And here she is, loved and being loved. And what did you get for that? She's living your perfectly happy life. Seconds, microseconds from you. And watching her comfort her friend, offer words of encouragement to her friend. And being as you are, you can feel the weight, the intensity of the emotions flying between them. And it's hard not feeling jealous, because that's your life. That should have been you. Instead of serving Yardley, instead of lost in the land of dream, instead of, oh, do make a note of that. This is quite spectacular.
Kira's hand stays on her fetch longer than she realizes. Temptation to take back her life, all of a sudden rising in her, and then just as quickly she pulls away as she realizes that's not how she wants this to happen, not how she wants this to go. She doesn't want to end them. She doesn't really know what she wants with them, but this isn't what she wants. So she quickly removes herself from the situation before she does something that she thinks she'll regret. Trying to move as quickly as possible before her fetch notices her.
Already distracted, already caught up in the moment. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your dexterity and stealth as high as you can.
About as high as I can.
Oh no, you can always go higher. Let's see. Andrew's wits. And is she aware enough? Let's see. What do we got? Come on. As a being of magic, you do the impossible nearly every chance you get. Your hand slides away from her shoulder, and you fade from her existence, once more a thing at the edge of her periphery. You once more becoming invisible to her. Once more becoming a lesser version of your copy. A shadow, a ghost haunting the edges of her understanding. The crowd helps, everyone's still swaying and giving themselves over to the song. And the wildness of the club, out away from the dance floor proper, swallows you up whole. The moving bodies in shadow, the couples and single individuals giving themselves over to the moment, acts as a shield. And you become invisible again. Do you keep your eyes on your fetch, or do you find another place, find somewhere else to be, something else to do to keep you from doing what should come natural? Your fetch stole your life. Your fetch took your happiness that was yours, is yours clearly. And while not as immediately traumatic as watching yourself die, watching your happiness be held and fondled by something that's not you elicits its own recourse inside you. It plants its own seed inside you.
Kira looks back at her fetch briefly, thinking about all that, thinking about the life she could have led, thinking about taking it back, replacing the person that replaced her. And then she forces it all out of her mind. She remembers that that's not the reason they're here. There's something else that they need to do. And she goes and heads to the bar to find Hazel, just like you said she would.
Promises. Not every promise is an oath. Hand on the heart, somberly given. Sometimes promises are considerably less. Sometimes promises come with a wish, accidentally stated out loud. And sometimes promises come with an outstretched hand, pulling you into a public, private moment of canoodling. Slightly cool skin encircling warm skin, encircling the essence of water, becoming something, a circuit, a charge, a inline motor, a thing of human magic, because touch is a very human thing. It's amazing the difference of being here, this side of the hedge, and it's been a very long time since Aurora's had touch. As engaging and powerful as the ocean is, becoming one with it, being water, there is an absence of touch, the weight of it, the expression of emotion in it. With touch, you can cast out the devil or comfort an angel. And here, this dirty, dark moment, Aurora's torn between which one she actually is. Because it's such a rush the lips sliding across the skin, the fingers in her hair, across her shoulders. Not one pair of lips, but two, gently, forcefully exploring, sliding along her jawline, nipping at her ears, giving body for body's sake, gliding across the fabric of her clothing, pulling her into that heady expression, that outpouring of need, because that's what it is. Does she stay in the moment? Does she fight herself and the magic of human touch?
He will fight it and try and reunite with her Motley.
Oh, that was Aurora's moment, sorry.
Oh, my apologies.
Aurora was pulled into their moment. Aurora giving herself over to the joy and expression of passion that she found herself being drawn to, because it is such a powerfully expressive extract. It is a distilled version of glamour, the pleasure in that upturned face. Question still remains, Aurora. Does she fight her better demons or give in to her worst angels? Does she stay where it feels she should be, or does she attempt to give herself over to duty and pull herself free?
She's gonna try to fight free. As good as it feels, she remembers that she has friends that she's supposed to be keeping an eye on, and got hella distracted, so she's gonna try to fight.
But did she get distracted? Did she not simply find her purpose in life? Isn't the essence of what she is here for joy? Isn't the essence of what she's here for the expression and outpouring of that joy at any and all costs? There's a price to be paid for everything. But this is a victimless crime. They're off doing whatever it is they're doing, finding whatever it is they're finding, and you found joy. You found an outpouring of passion for passion's sake.
Like I said, it feels good, but at the same time,
Excellent. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your unspent clarity. Your DC is, what's your mantle? How many dots in mantle does she have?
2.
Oh, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your unspent clarity? Your DC is 4. Everywhere that she is touched, her skin grows warm, and the butterflies in her stomach float and flutter the flap of their wings, much like in the real world, where the flapping of a butterfly's wings could change the course of a nation. She fights free, and in the doing, the expression of what she is, the waters of spring, the rejuvenating promise of new life becomes obvious, becomes crystal clear. Her eyes taking on the roiling, stormy spring seas, the squalls that tear ships to shreds and have been the bane of mankind forever. She pulls herself free, and in the doing, the mask itself is caught in the power of touch, in the promise of unending pleasure, joy, infinite. In the doing, she tears herself free of the mask of her paramours and of this moment, and stands revealed to them as a nymph, as a dryad, as the essence of spring and water combined into one. All the weight of the ocean, all of the majesty, the gently babbling brook, and the raging white water, all in one, and their mouths fall open. It is the best and worst trip that they have ever had, and neither of them have ever partaken of alcohol. And as Aurora slips away, leaving them with a vision that will inspire them for years, she realizes that there's more than a little love bite on her neck as she slips away to continue looking for the doorman's paramour. There's a few droplets of blood on the left side, her fingers coming away, slick with what she was hoping was sweat, but instead is a bit of her blood there. She can't feel any place where her skin has been opened, and yes, she heals very, very quickly, but she doesn't feel as if she has been healed. It feels odd to find blood, hers, on her skin, and yet not have a wound to show for it.
Again, pausing and looking at her fingers under the light. That's a little rougher than I like it. Jeez. Wonder which one bit me. The fuck? That's so weird. I mean, it felt good. That's fucking weird. I gotta find the rest of them. And then she goes back to finding the guy so that she could find her friends.
Easier done than said. You find the face that you were looking for, the needle in the haystack of needles, sitting in one of the few chairs inside the maze, his legs stretched out as if he just plopped there and could go no further. A almost rictus-like smile stuck to his face as if he's been to the mountaintop, his pants undone but pulled up, his shirt akimbo and seemingly on backwards, and his heavy breathing letting you know that those closed eyes are in fact proof that he is no longer in the land of the conscious.
Just kind of looks around to see if anybody seems to be the cause for his clothing, or if maybe the bouncer at the door managed to come inside and they made up.
It's funny what stories we tell ourselves when we make leaps of logic, when we try to apply reasoned deduction to the unreasonable realities of nothing is impossible, even as some things are highly improbable. Staring on the results of someone who's clearly had far more fun than they were physically able to keep up with, there are several handfuls of decisions that lie before her. He's relatively safe. It's clear that he doesn't have much money on him. It's clear that whatever he had been up to is over. It is clear that he is in that pleasurable nod that you get after overindulging and just passing out at a party. And yet, spidey senses tingle. The understanding of magic, the fact that it exists, sits there dancing just out of reach as she stares on the peacefully sleeping paramour of the doorman.
Thinking about how it would look if doorman came in and found him this way. If he would be even more brokenhearted than he seems to be at the door. She kind of makes a decision and goes over to him, tapping him gently. Hey. Hey.
Annabelle, oh my God. I can't believe you came down again. Give me a few minutes.
No. I don't know who Annabelle is, but your man.
Oh God, she's gorgeous. She's so pretty. So pretty.
Yeah,
Oh God. Hi.
That's great.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey you. Hi.
Hi.
Give me a couple of seconds so I can go for round 3.
No. Come on. Wait, hold on. Your boyfriend sent me in to find
Oh
you.
yeah, he'll love you. Oh, you're so his type. Look at you with those real perky ones. Oh God.
Wait. Okay, hold on. That's cute, and thank you for the compliment. But no, seriously.
Oh yeah, serious. You could be our 4th. Wouldn't be the first time we shared somebody. We play well. Hey, when'd you get here? And he attempts to reach out to suavely touch your wrists and entreat you into whatever he was preparing to entreat you into. And his coordination is off. It's almost as if he's reaching for the second one of the 3 of you standing before him.
Not dodges back, but just kind of makes it so that it's a little harder for him to grab. And then he has to sit up and really, really look at her.
Oh, hey. Hey, give me just Oh, Amy, I just,
Thinking of something to do, she kind of calls a little bit of water to her fingertips and just kind of touches his forehead with it.
What comes out of his mouth as the refreshing water rolls over his brow? The few sprinkles and droplets, such as him having splashed his face with water, normally enough to elicit a response that is radio friendly, something that you'd hear. Like, that's good, or some such sign of refreshment. What comes to his lips and what Aurora stands there trying to decipher as cleanly and family friendly as possible should be an impossibility. Not every person can do what he describes, not without the right partner. And yet his give me more final toss off as he drifts back into that warmth of pleasure he's experienced leaves Aurora wondering exactly what sort of parties do they get up to.
Okay, he's not gonna wake up. So she rebuttons his pants for him, knowing that he's not gonna fight her on that because he probably want her to take them off further. And making sure that nobody's going to hurt him, just kind of okay, he's okay. She will leave him to his sleeping, having tried in earnest to keep her promise. And she did deliver the message, but at the same time, he's just not in a state to go looking for his boyfriend. So she's gonna leave him there and go back to trying to find her friends.
There's something about humanity that Aurora's never quite sure she wishes she had the opportunity of experiencing, or glad that she had the opportunity of missing. Because as she leaves him there in the dark, alone as he clearly ever is on nights like tonight, one of the handsome women she passes high fives. Get it, girl. Everybody needs a little taste of strange, huh? Clearly having seen Aurora fiddling with his pants, clearly having misinterpreted what she'd caught the tail end of.
Normally Aurora is bold as you please, but this one brings a blush across her cheeks and she just kind of looks away and speeds up her steps a bit.
It's funny. There's a cost to doing everything. A lot of times those costs we're glad to pay or angry to pay, especially when we can have an idea of them up front. Other costs come along like thieves in the night and don't make themselves plainly understood. One of those costs is that the natural transference of spending time with anyone. And as Harmony and Brett move through the crowd looking for her, the natural transference of spending time, the cost is being paid. She is the essence of winter. She is as the essence of what it means when the world prepares to give life back to itself. She is what creates the bountifully fruitful conditions that spring grows from. And yet, someone earnestly pursuing her with no apparent strings attached. Someone who found the idea of her, not the ideal that she represents, not the ideal that she's connected with, not what she can do for them, but someone finds her immediately valuable enough to make a complete and unvarnished fool of themselves. Not charging her anything. She could disappear right before him, and true enough to his word, he probably would think about her relatively, as the kids say, forever. You all find yourselves further in the maze. There's several exchanges of emotion going on around you all. You pass one individual who's staggering into a chair, clearly having had enough for the night. You watch another group of women who have found themselves a quiet place to dance and just be recklessly and randomly themselves. Their idea of dancing is, well, leaves very little to the imagination in regards to what they really would much rather enjoy doing. You see a group of punks, so that's the only way to describe them. The torn jeans from life, not from some name brand fashion boutique. The leather jacket that is older than all 5 of them put together. The bruises freshly earned from some stupid idea that they clearly didn't realize was stupid until they did it. All of those many signs of life and adoration and enjoyment of the moment as you all move further through the maze itself. And Brett offers Harmony, you know, there are a lot of spaces where we can perhaps take a sit and let whatever it is that you're looking for come to us.
I'm sure there's no ulterior motives attached to that.
No, I told you what my motive was from the beginning. Why would you think that it's changed now?
Well, let me stop you from taking your rest.
You wouldn't be stopping me. You'd be helping me. You'd like to help me, wouldn't you?
I thought you were helping me.
There's no reason why we can't help each other. Getting there mutually is far better than getting there singly.
Sometimes.
Oh, see? That means that you're not with the right person if it's only sometimes. A little help, both hands working towards your mutual pleasure. There's nothing like it. It's funny. I have had the opportunity a few times in my life, and I know you find it strange that I've had a life before you, but I had a life. I'm probably not going to have one when you leave me, But I had a life. It was a very long time ago, but look, you interest me, you intrigue me, and I find myself telling you more things than I should. You have a power over me, my lady. And I don't want anything from you, except for your pleasure. But you can tell me about that anytime you like. I don't have to be the cause of it, though I guarantee you, if you give me a chance, if you give me one opportunity, I guarantee you, I make a solemn promise that I will give you everything I can to ensure you have the most unbelievable moment in the entirety of your life. And I'll sweeten the deal even more. If I can't give you that moment that I promise, I will walk away and I will mourn your loss in silence, and you will never see me again. Now, I do have to let you know that when you lose, that everything else will pale by comparison.
I'm sure that this pretty much always works for you, but you're asking me to bite off something when I'm not hungry.
Oh no, it doesn't have to be now. And there is no rush. But until that moment, you let me help you any night and every night until you do. How about it? You got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Nothing's ever that simple.
Only because we don't let it be. Everything is as simple as that. When you're hungry, eat. When you're angry, fight. When you're curious, explore. So how about it? Do we have a deal? Until you're hungry, and you give me the opportunity to satiate you like you've never been satiated before. You give me the benefit and promise to be of help to you every night until we do. You know what that means? It means that when you call me, I come running. When you come to the end of your day, that I will come to you wherever you are and be of nothing but an assistance to you. Unless, of course, you're afraid. I know it can be a little challenging. I know that making that leap is a scary, scary thing. But I'm not asking you to open up to me. I'm not asking you to bare your soul. I'm asking you to simply be as you are.
And as I am, I don't enter contracts lightly.
It's not a light thing that I'm proposing. I will be your helpmate until you give me the chance to show you how much pleasure is something that you need. Pleasure for pleasure's sake. What have you got to lose? Your idea as to what pleasure is?
If there wasn't something for me to lose, you wouldn't be proposing the wager.
Well, there's a difference. I want you to win, and I can help you get there. I'm proposing me losing.
Yeah, again, nothing is ever that simple.
How about trial basis?
I'm sure there's at least a dozen other women here that would love to have the offer that you have presented them, but for me right now, I'm not really tempted.
That is a shame. He stands, smoothing his slacks, straightening his shirt, stepping just to the edge of close before you. His chin easing towards his chest as his eyes settle on yours. And he smiles. The moment he smiles, it feels as if the world itself brightens. Would you be so kind as to roll your resolve plus word? Oh shit, that's 9 dice. Fuck. A little high. I'm gonna take some dice off. We'll cut it in half. He locks eyes with you, and the world seems to brighten when he locks eyes. When he smiles, and those very sharp canines make themselves visible, his tongue lightly sliding along their edge, there is a fear that begins to bloom in your chest. It's almost as if looking into those crystally clear eyes that you're staring into the face of one of winter's wolves. The thick, hirsute, gray wolf-sized monstrosity, as if a wolf could take on 2 legs and stand there before you, licking his lips, letting you know exactly how much of a steak it thinks you might be. And as he says, how about it? 1 moment. That's all I ask. And he's suddenly not as handsome as he was. The world doesn't seem to rest on his shoulders. And all of the moments you spent with him searching through the crowd seems as if it was designed to get you further and further removed from the easy ebb and flow of those who've passed. As if as you purposely move further into the maze to get lost amongst the darkness. Very much alone.
She will drop her eyes and look to insert herself back into the crowd.
That being the case, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your dexterity and stealth as high as you can. Is that your final roll? You can always re-roll failures if you like.
I mean, I can only re-roll one die, so it's not worth it.
There's an interesting thing that falls over most humans when they realize that they are prey. There's no longer a fight or a flight. There's usually a fight to flight that takes over. Harmony realizes that she's in fact the prey in this moment somehow has made friends with fate, and one person after the next intersperses themselves between you and Brett. One shadow after another seems to just hide your recent passing, and just as you pause trying to decide on whether you're going to head back towards the bar where your motley is, a raven-haired woman dressed similarly to you crosses your path, and instead of heading in further into the maze, cuts across your path towards a set of hidden stairs leading up into the club. Just as she crosses your path, as you stand there at the edge of one wall and the next at the crux of two corners, Brett happens to traipse into view, catching that raven-haired woman wearing the red sweater, and follow her up into the club itself.
She'll watch for a moment, but let that play itself out. Maybe the problem will solve itself. She'll go towards the bar looking for her motley.
And as Harmony makes her way out of the maze towards the bar, there are nights like this that people, normal human, living their normal lives, would write home to mom about. No matter what comes of that conversation, there is the real weighty feeling of having connected with another living being, of being singled out as worthy enough for someone to rest the entirety of their attentions upon, being viable enough of an entity that you've caught their attention. And no, not their fantastical idea of you, as you spent an untold number of years across the hedge being molded and shaped into the perfect version for whoever you were entertaining. But this is not someone else's fantasy of you. This is you that someone has individually, some living entity, not a member of Arcadia, not someone who's running from the trauma and troubles of their past, finds you specifically. And there's something heady in that. There's something unreal about that. In this day and age, in this modern time when plastic and fakery is the standard, someone finding you so Hazel,
Yes.
with that dancing on the edge of her conscience as you all make your way back in the door, where does that leave her? What does that provide her with the impetus to do?
Presuming they were able to chit-chat between, patrons. When she sees her friends coming back through, she'll give them a little wave them over. Wait. So, looks like my friends are back.
I'm gonna be in trouble?
No, of course not. Maybe I'll swing by and talk to you again.
That'd be nice.
Not so bad here.
It's not in my little corner of the world. You're welcome to join me when you get a chance. And as you fight off the maudlin feeling that comes with saying goodbye, even temporarily, there's a look shared from one of the motley to the next, and it's not completely decipherable, and you're not sure if you really want to, but there's a part of you that loves the puzzles. It's funny the way that fate works, with the motley being deposited back together, like a hand closing in on itself to form a fist.
Looks like you had a time. She'll look back and forth between everyone.
This place is fucking crazy. Fucking insane. She leans really close to the other one. I got bit on my neck.
So arch an eyebrow. You got it? Did you get in the middle of a fight?
No.
A glimpse,
What's the fight?
a glimpse of hands sliding across your clothes. Eye contact was made, and that's not something that typically happens in a scene such as that, in an expression such as that. And then the world seemed to get fuzzy around the edges as it warm, unfiltered passion flowed and roiled and massaged and glided along the skin.
Nope. What? Fighting! Not the word. Other word with F. Yes.
Oh,
And mentioning
isn't that a
being
thing
bit.
that happens?
I'm sorry. And mentioning being bit, it is almost impossible for Harmony not to think on those teeth, those pearly whites that are sharper than she's ever seen any person's canines. Those pearly whites that promise, well, so many things. And as Harmony re-experiences the idea of what it might have been to be bit, there's a certain look to Kira that says that she would be the biter, not the bitee. And it's a unusual look for her. Something clearly happened that she can't quite put words to, which is a rarity. She's always able to simplify her ideals down to the most communicative forms. And yet in this moment it looks as if she's fought a war. She's got a 1,000-yard stare, and she looks towards the stage once more as if she's trying to find some semblance of balance out there in the dark. And you all realize that the band is playing their last song. They're wrapping it up, and people are holding up their cell phones instead of their lighters. And that spells a little bit of trouble. Because if the band isn't there to distract everyone as you all stare and look from one to the next, it is quite obvious that Aurora doesn't have the double exposed facet to her. Normally the mask is like looking at a double exposed photograph for you all. You're able to see the portions of each other that is still in Arcadia. And yet, as you all look at Aurora, you realize that is not the case.
I think, Aurora, you may have had a little bit too much to drink, and maybe we should get out of here.
Sure, I didn't drink any. Somebody tried to drink me, though.
Yes, you seem to be missing something.
Patting at herself. I don't think so.
Splash.
Oh. Oh. Huh. Well, that's embarrassing. But yes, I like this idea of getting out of here right now.
As you all make that decision, as you all concoct that plan, a path of egress, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely session, and I'll see you guys next week. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Night.